Welcome back. The new Nelson Mandela Bay mayor is now the UDM's Mongameli Bobani. What are the plans for the municipality now? We asked the UDM's Bantu Holomisa, who's in studio with us. Thanks so much for your time, sir. Appreciate it. So we've just spoken to the DA in the Eastern Cape. They're saying that there was not a legitimate election of Mongameli Bobani and the speaker as well. What do you have to say to that?
Well, we need to reject the DA's version of events. Everybody was watching the activities in that council. First and foremost, the leader of the DA, James Self, has no power to write a letter just to say to the municipality, this person who has voted 30 minutes ago has been expelled because he has voted against them. Secondly, the municipal manager has no powers to declare that post vacant. It's only the IEC who can do so. The truth of the matter is that that gentleman used his conscience and voted against his own political party. It's recorded. What happens after that is none of our business.
So the DA is saying that the acting speaker of the legislature declared that meeting adjourned. And the fact that the speaker was not there when this vote happened does not make it legitimate.
He is out there. They are misleading the public because the city manager adjourned the meeting to say he's going to consult as to whether he can allow DA to have a caucus after they have been voted out, after their speaker was voted out. And later on, when they were resuming at 2 o'clock, then DA presented a letter saying that other gentleman has been expelled. Even that one on its own, it shows that they are running that party through kangaroo courts. This person an hour ago voted against them, and immediately James Self write a letter directly to him without even asking a question, why did you do this? Besides that, it's only the IEC which has the power to declare a vacant post in a council, not a city manager, not a speaker. So they are out of line if they think that procedures were flouted there.
Well, I mean, the point is, and I don't want to argue about this or speak about it anymore because you've already made your point, they've made their point. The DA says that the acting speaker of the legislature adjourned that meeting, and that's why that vote could have not taken place in the first place. You guys can argue that in court when it gets to that point,
We are ready for them.
Let's talk about Mongameli Bobani. He's now the mayor, according to the UDM and other ANC members in the council. What do you have to say about his leadership when you yourself issued him a final notice and warning about his behavior in those chambers?
It is our responsibility when an incident is reported about one of our persons, and we showed leadership by giving him a warning. And I guess that in the world of politics, we're not the first political party to have warned one of our leaders. And ever since then, we are happy with his performance, behavior. So he accepted his mistakes and he apologized at the time. So that is history. We are not going to use that as an excuse. Bobani was chosen by other political parties in that council. He was not even anointed by the UDM to be a mayor.
You believe in his leadership skills? You believe he can take the...
If we didn't believe in his skills and leadership qualities, we would have replaced him long time ago.
And what about the allegations that were leveled against him by the DA?
The DA leveled serious allegations against him. We asked the DA to investigate them. You will recall that Mayor Trollip appointed PwC forensic auditors. They came back with the interim report. The name of Bobani was absent in that report. The final report, which they have refused to publish, was eventually leaked by the media, and still did not find anything about against Bobani. After they have misled the country, traveling all over the country saying they have a prima facie evidence of corruption against Bobani, but to date they have produced nothing. And I'm still saying to them, you must call them into the studio live, and they must produce that evidence. It's clear that it's their style of doing things. Once they differ with somebody, look at what they did to Delil. Look at what they did this afternoon. Without this gentleman being called to appear in front of the DC or the mayor himself, they just write a letter to say you are expelled. Is that democratic?
So let's look at this new partnership that you have
Yes.
in Nelson Mandela Bay. Are you in alliance with the ANC?
The UDM is not in alliance with the ANC. You must make sure that you use correct terminologies.
Correct me. What are you doing there?
Ally-
The list I'm seeing here has a majority of ANC-appointed people in the legislature.
If I may also pose a question to you, why are you concerned about working with the ANC?
Well, you were concerned about working with the ANC when you joined forces with the Democratic Alliance after the 2016 local government elections. So that's why I can ask you that question now.
But I've since realized that they are almost the same. But in working with ANC or DA, who are betting on the same wicket, I must make sure that the services are not affected.
Okay, so what is your relationship with the ANC looking at the legislature and who it's made up by?
The ANC have approached the UDM and other political parties. We have been discussing as to how do we make sure that the services in those affected areas are delivered, because Trollip and his cabal have failed dismally to deliver services in northern areas and in other disadvantaged areas. We have been telling the DA that the budget is skewed in favor of the developed areas. Therefore, we need to send services that side. You will recall that it was UDM who opposed it right initially at the start when Trollip wanted to bail out rugby for 15 million. But we said your priorities are upside down. The people who vote for UDM and other parties here are still living in using bucket system. Why do you prioritize rugby? But later on, eventually, all parties agreed because he convinced them why they had to do that.
So you say that you made a mistake in believing in the Democratic Alliance and joining forces at the start.
No, I didn't say I made a mistake. I said ANC and DA, in the eyes of the UDM, are the same.
Yet you're still joining forces with the ANC now.
Yes, because if we don't work with any of them, the services are going to be at standstill. We are concerned about services. We don't care about the corruption they are perpetrating in the cities, in other cities, as well as in the national departments. But we have to give votes and make sure that the services are sent to the people.
Well, that's the thing that will be
raised.
raised.
The DA and ANC, if you talk corruption, they are the same. But
and that's why I find it so difficult that you've joined.
At the end of the day, we don't have numbers. We have to support one of them in order for the services to go.
So you're supporting two parties, basically, so that you can be in power.
For instance, in Johannesburg, we are working with the DA. We are not opposed to what Mashaba is doing here, but we are questioning the behavior of the mayor of Nelson Mandela, who have been saying these things publicly, but he doesn't want to listen. So if the ANC were in charge of the city like a mayor, maybe would have not.
Yeah.
But still, we have to make sure that the services are attended to.
All right, we have a caller on the line, Kniebe from the Eastern Cape. Tell us what you have to ask Mr. Holomisa.
Hello, sir. In fact, I would like to make a brief comment that with the latest development in Nelson Mandela, I foresee a reinvigorated DA. That when ultimately things are brought back to the people for them to decide, the DA is going to move far ahead of these parties. Maybe what is happening is an advantage to them. Just a slight correction. I think the general is making a mistake. When a vacancy exists in the municipality, it is the municipal manager who declares that vacancy and subsequently notifies the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission will refer to a party list in a case of a proportional representative. And then if it is a councillor, the IEC, after having heard from the municipal manager, will then announce a by-election. As for the vacancy that exists, it is the municipal manager.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Let's focus on the first two comments, Mr. Holomisa, because you've already addressed the sitting and whether it was legitimate or not. He says that this will give the DA an opportunity to reinvigorate itself and still showing some support for the Democratic Alliance and not the UDM leadership.
So the other political parties like EFF, ANC and UDM, he thinks that we will fold our arms. We won't benefit anything from this. So I won't contest that position. That is his view. I will be wasting your time and the viewers' time.
What would you say to viewers and South Africans who are going to say this? And I'm sorry, it might be controversial. You might not like me for asking it again. It looks like you're supporting people just to be in power, because you yourself admit that you're not too sure about both the leaderships of the Democratic Alliance and the ANC.
Why is it sounds like that? Because do you know that the DA itself and ANC have worked together after 2016 election to oust a councillor, a mayor, who was coming from civil society in the Western Cape, because they differed on how he was performing. So the nature of coalitions is that I'm not going to be tossed around by one political party or stop this notion that the only party which must be supported is DA. The way line of questioning you are coming up with in a politics of coalition, you think that the coalition will be qualified if it has formed by DA. No, you are making a big mistake. I've just said DA and ANC formed a coalition to oust that council.
And I've spoken to you so many times where you've come on set to lambaste the ANC for corruption, for not running governments properly.
And I'm still going to do that.
And you're still in a partnership with them, ultimately.
Even the DA now, after we've been reading nauseating corrupt practices, we are going to work to attack them.
What happens in that council when the ANC is not going to agree with things that you want to get through? How do you work through all of that?
The issue of Nelson Mandela, I've got a problem with the way you ask questions. You don't seem to understand what's happening.
Explain it.
It's not the UDM who is running that municipality. It is going to be a collective. It's ANC, it's EFF, is UDM. So you cannot say, therefore, that and other political parties. It's not like the UDM alone was going to call the shots. So that is the advantage of Bobani, because the majority of the formed coalitions are not from UDM members only.
But he is the executive mayor. Does that ultimately make him a puppet?
No. Decisions are taken at caucuses. Decisions are taken at mayoral committee, then they are implemented. The sooner we give powers to the accounting officers in this country to do their work, the better. The executive mayor, it doesn't mean that he has to compete with the city manager. City manager must implement decisions which have been taken by the executive committee as well as by the council.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Up next, are police so desperate for a conviction that they're willing to ignore evidence or lack thereof. What happens when justice fails the innocent? Stay with us. This is Tonight with Jane Dutton. I'm Shahan Ramsey.